Hi, sports fans. This is the Village Elliot, and this show is The Oracle Speaks. This episode is going to tell you why it is impossible to make money betting on the Cleveland Browns. Oh, what an unhappy thought. If only it were possible to just bet on the Cleveland Browns or any other of your favorite sports teams and just make money by doing so. But there are reasons why that is so. Now, some of you may believe that it is a curse that has been placed on your team, especially the Browns. But I'm here to tell you that it's really based on mathematics and statistics. And I'm going to explain in a simple way why that is so. There are ways that you can make bets and occasionally win, but in the long run, you cannot consistently beat the odds makers at this game. This is an unhappy fact. And like many prophets in Greek mythology, they were actually cursed by the Greek gods, so they say, so that they were given the gift of prophecy, but the people would not listen to what they have to say. So I have no doubt that even though I speak the truth, most of the people listening to this broadcast today are not going to believe what I've got to say because it is such unhappy news. You cannot win by betting on the Cleveland Browns. Well, then, maybe we should just get to it and just really talk about what the math really will tell us in a simple way about what we can do to understand why it is so difficult to win on a consistent basis. So, let me just present my file here. And let's see, let me find this. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Okay, this is a PowerPoint presentation that I prepared just for you. And it's entitled Why You Can't Win Betting on the Cleveland Browns. I am the Village Elliot, and my Twitter handle is at @THVillageElliot. Notice that there is no E in there's no THE, it's just at @THVillageElliot. You can contact me anytime you like. And here we go. First of all, let me make a disclaimer. I didn't used to bet at all on football, but now I am betting on it. And the reason is that I think that the pain of losing motivates me to be a better analyst. So I can give you some really, the best analysis, the best advice that I can about the games and what's going to happen. And frankly, I want to have the bragging rights. I want to put up or shut up. And I'll tell you what I've done this year, and I've only had 2 losing weeks so far this year. I've been riding Coach Prime. I think that the Colorado team has been really very, a really noteworthy story. I've been upset, frankly, that the University of Cincinnati did not hire him. Cincinnati is his town. He played baseball in Cincinnati for years. And man, I really felt that they were dumb not to take advantage of it. He is the best recruiter in college football history. Massive use of the portal, just absolutely brilliant. And I felt that, okay, you've got like 90 players and they're just learning how to play together. And as the season progresses, they're coming together as a team. It's not like they were assembled, ready to play. It's not fantasy football. They have to learn how to be a team, and they're getting better as they play. So I've been looking for them to get better as the season goes on. Now, it turned out that they had an upset victory in their first game. I didn't really expect that to happen. I did expect that they would probably beat the spread because I thought they were going to be better than everybody thought they were. But anyway, so I've been riding that train for the most part. The other thing is that what is usually true, especially early in the season, is that you can bet contrary to the New York media because they always overhype New York teams. And especially, I was down on Aaron Rodgers. I think he's an old man, and I didn't think he was going to really be that good. And I also was down on the New York Giants, so I was right about that. I think that next year, Aaron Rodgers, first of all, he did have a really fantastic offseason. He got everybody pulling in the right direction, and there is merit to that. But I really didn't think he was going to be that great of a quarterback. I don't think that he'll come back next year to be the Aaron Rodgers that he was 5 years ago. I think he'll still be a serviceable quarterback, but he's not going to be the superstar that he was. So I think he'll be overrated. I think that he'll probably generate 2 or 3 points in the spread that are probably not justified. So I'll probably bet against the New York Jets, especially early in the season next season. But yeah, the New York teams are generally overrated, especially early in the year. And then when disaster strikes, it could go the other way. And that's what we saw this year, that they thought that Zach Wilson was the Antichrist, and they started going the other way and thinking that they couldn't possibly win or stay in the ball game with anybody. But they still had that very good defense. So I kind of switched my attitude with the Jets at that point, and I started to bet for them. I won on that. Things were doing pretty good. And so that's what I did good. Some of the things that I did that were bad, I did not agree with the Baltimore Ravens. I thought that they let go too many people in the defensive secondary. Did not agree with their offensive philosophy, where I thought that the front office was trying to build a pocket passing team, whereas I thought the coaching staff and Lamar Jackson were still set up to be a dual threat team, that they still wanted to be a run first team, and that Lamar Jackson, in my mind, is the greatest dual threat quarterback in NFL history. And I thought that they were kind of clashing. They were not on the same page. I did not expect them to be the great winners that they have been. And so I did lose some money on the Ravens, betting against their offense, both, betting that they would lose outright and also betting the under in Ravens games. So that has been a surprise for me. And then I've also bet on the Cleveland Browns, where I've tended to bet the under on their games. And I've also tended to bet that they would win outright because I felt that the national media was down on them, and that has not worked out consistently well for me either. And then also, the other reason why I'm betting, I think, is if I do a good job, some of the gambling sites will eventually hire me, or at least be interested in me. So I think it's a good professional thing for me to do. So that's why I'm doing it. Okay, so let's talk about the meat of this program, why you can't do it. There's, first of all, the overarching question. This is your philosophy. It might be different for different people, but you have to come to your own conclusion whether you believe that sports behaves more or less like statistical events, like predicting the weather, whether it's a mathematical thing that behaves like a statistical event, or whether you believe that there is some sort of divine or godlike entity that controls sporting events, and that you may have some special ability to understand what this godlike force or this, this divine cosmic consciousness is going to do to control the outcome of sporting events. Okay, now there's two different schools of thought. One is that it's math-based and statistics-based, and the other one is that it's some kind of mumbo-jumbo or magic-based. And if it's magic-based, I really don't have much to say. Maybe you do have ESP, or the ability to project the future, to predict the future. I have nothing to say about that. Don't say whether it's possible or impossible, only that I can't deal with that type of eventuality. That's not my bailiwick. But if you're going to talk about math and statistics, then I do have something to say, and that it is impossible, almost impossible, to bet on one team consistently and beat the odds makers. There's rules for that. And basically what it amounts to is that the legalized betting services are not fair. They have a tax that's built into the system. They charge a fee for taking your bet. It's called a vigorish, and it may not seem like very much. It's like 9 or 10%, but it is a lot. And because they charge that, it's not possible for you to consistently overcome that based on the skill of the group of people that sets the odds. You cannot be better than them on a consistent basis. And I'm going to talk about exactly what that means next. For those who have got visual, you can see the words on the screen. And if not, I think you can follow my logic even without the visual aids. But okay, there's some simple math here that if we are given the point spread and we're given the over under, the total amount of points scored, that's a simple mathematical set of equations that allows us to calculate what the estimated score is. So for example, this was true earlier in the week, a day or two ago, that if the Browns and Cards are estimated to have an over under of 37.5 and the Browns are favored by 8, you can do the math and do algebra. And so 2 times the Browns score minus 8 points is 37.5. And that comes out to the Browns score on the average. Of course, you can't score fractional points, but on the average, it would be Browns 22.75, Cards 14.75, or 22 3/4, Cardinals 14 3/4. So you subtract the two, 22.75 minus 14.75, lo and behold, that's 8 points. That's where your point spread comes from. You add them up and it comes out to 37.5 points. So, okay, so that makes sense, doesn't it? And then you can also calculate what the win percentage is. What's the chance that the Browns are going to win if you believe that those are the best estimates, and calculate what the win percentage is. And there's a formula that they call the Pythagorean win percentage. And the reason why they call it that is because it looks kind of like the equation that you use to calculate the area of a triangle. But anyway, and that was discovered by the mathematician Pythagoras back in Umpty-Ump BC. But anyway, so you use this equation. It's the square of the number of points scored divided by the sum of the square of the points scored plus the sum of the points given up. And that comes out to 70.4%. And so the Browns have a 70.4% chance to win the game if you believe that those are the best estimates. So that's a statistical prediction, and that means that there's a, it's an estimate. It means that it could go differently statistically depending on random events. That there's a chance that the underdog, the Cardinals, could be lucky and they could score some touchdowns by random chance, and that there's a 29% chance that they could actually win the game outright. So you can try to outpredict the best odds makers in the country. And I'm not saying that it's impossible to do that, but it's very, very difficult. And let's get into explaining why that's so. Let's go into some more simple math, not quite as simple as that. But the problem is that the bookie is charging 9.5%, maybe even a little bit more than that, a fee for placing your bet. And so what that means is that the bookie does not have to have a 50% win percentage in order for him to break even. He only needs to win 45.5% of the time, and he's going to be able to make a profit or at least break even. And that means that you have to have a winning percentage over 500, over 50%. You've got to win 54.5% of the time. So that means that if we go to, let's take a reasonable game, an NFL game involves about 44 points, let's say, and calculate what that Pythagorean win percentage means in terms of point spread. And it means that there's about a 2-point spread associated with that win percentage. So in other words, that the bookie has the equivalent of about a 2-point spread built into his betting. That he, you have to, in other words, be better than 2 points smarter than the bookie. So the bookie has to actually be wrong. His estimate must be off by 2 points or more, and you have to know the correct estimate by better than those 2 points in order for you to beat him. And so if he's got the estimate right within 2 points, there's nothing that you can do that will ever be able to make a profit, because he's close enough that his 9% fee is going to cover him, and he will make money off of you no matter how smart you are, believing that the ultimate result is controlled by random factors. You cannot beat him because he has that advantage. So he has to be off by more than 2 points in order for you to beat him, and you have to know which way he's off and bet on the other side. So that's why if you believe that the community is good enough to be able to set the spread to within 2 points, they cannot be beat. You cannot make a profit off of them if they're that good, or if you're not 2 points wiser than them. They cannot be beaten in that case. And I would say that the best sports experts in the world work for the odds makers. They are better than me. They're better than Joel Cade. They're better than John Suchan. They're better than all of us. So holy smokes. To think that we could consistently, first of all, that they could consistently be wrong by more than 2 points, and that we would be better than them by those 2 points or more. That's the ultimate folly. It's just, well, I guess Steve Gill could probably do it, but the rest of us it's just not going to happen. It is not possible for anybody to be that good. So that's just the way it is. Now, that's not to say that it can't be done sometimes. You couldn't, I don't think, do that game after game after game after game. But there are situations in which you might be able to identify isolated events in which some teams might be wrong and the experts might be wrong about certain games and certain situations. And I mentioned that in some cases that the New York and Dallas teams are sometimes overrated, and that the press really pumps them up, and that might move the spread in the wrong direction. Remembering, of course, that the gambling community tries to set the spread at such a point where they can get kind of a 50%, 50% of the bets come in on one team and 50% on the other. And so the spread might be off by a little bit. And you might be able to bet the other way and win on that basis. Similarly, there are some quarterbacks that are overrated and overhyped. And I mentioned, I thought that Aaron Rodgers at age 39 or 40, however old he is. I think he'll be 41 next season. Might be overrated and overhyped a little bit. And you might want to bet against them if you feel that the community is placing too much emphasis on them. I also think that defenses tend to be undervalued, and that's why Cleveland was an attractive bet for a while early in the season. Of course, we didn't know that Deshaun Watson was going to go south, and that really screwed things up for us, but okay. I did like the Cleveland Browns defense, especially earlier this season. And I also felt, however, that Deshaun Watson's effect on the game was overrated. I still don't believe in Deshaun Watson. I think he needs to reestablish himself as a premier quarterback before I get excited about his impact on the point spread. I mentioned that I'm very, very impressed by Coach Prime. We formerly called him Deion Sanders, but as a coach, I choose to refer to him as Coach Prime, and that they collected players who have never played before. They're coming together week by week. I expect them to get stronger with experience. And I think that they'll get better as the season goes on. So I'm looking at those games very closely. I think that's an opportunity. And I think that there's a lot of prime sentiment that will cause the point spread to go the wrong way. So I'm looking at those games. I think those are very interesting. I mentioned also previously that I've lost by betting against Baltimore. I felt that they overinvested in wide receiver talent. They're trying to force Lamar Jackson to be a pocket passer. But Coach Harbaugh and LJ still want to have a run-first offense. So I thought they're not on the same page. Thought that was bad. Well, but, Baltimore always tricks us. Always. It's a mistake to underestimate them. They've been able to succeed despite those problems. Also, I felt that Cincinnati and Baltimore let too many free agents go in the defensive backfield at the beginning of the year. I was very bullish about Pittsburgh. I still like their defense. Still like the Browns defense, but things have not gone the way I predicted in the AFC North. So anyway, so that's a summary of how things could be topsy-turvy, and you might find an opportunity to bet against the best in the world temporarily, not forever. These trends are not going to last forever, but I've done well so far for 7 or 8 weeks. I've done well. Only had 2 losing weeks so far. Also, some comments about NFL football. It's not really as statistical, as truly random as you might want it to be. The equations don't truly apply, and the reason is that the scoring is not truly random. Points are usually scored in bunches of 7 or 3 touchdowns or field goals. Sometimes there are 6 points scored, or sometimes there's 8. It's hard to score 2, but it's possible if you get a safety. You never score 1 point. There's never like a 1-0 game. You can't score 1 point in football. It's very hard to score 4 points. I guess you could score 2 safeties, but you hardly ever do that. So it's not really the smooth curve is shown, but still you can think of it as something that follows, the smooth curve, the random probability distributions sort of apply. That's basically what we're saying. Football is also influenced by strategy, momentum, and other factors that are not really random. So it's, maybe you could call it a quasi random situation. And it's useful to think of it as a statistically fluctuating kind of situation where teams can score or not score, and the outcome is something that can fluctuate. It's not 100% predictable. It is statistically based, nevertheless. And you might disagree with to the extent to which it is statistically based, but I like it better to think of it that way, as a mathematical kind of event, rather than believing that there's some god of luck that's controlling the outcome and making things happen in order to frustrate us. Well, that's what it feels like, but I don't believe in a luck god. I really don't. So that's what I have to say. That's why you cannot bet on Cleveland Browns football or any other team consistently and win at it. What is my advice? Well, look, if you want to make money, you're going to make more money investing in your 401k. So there's no reason for anybody to bet more than a few dollars on sports. This is just a recreational kind of thing for bragging rights and stuff. If you do anything more than that, that means you have a problem. Don't do it. Listen to your spouse and get help. You're crazy if you're betting hundreds of dollars. There was a guy that where I work came in and bragged about how he was going to bet $1,000 on the Cincinnati Bengals to beat the Browns in the opener. Well, the Browns cleaned their clock and he lost. I felt bad about that, but man, they're trying to tell you a lesson. Don't do stuff like that. Right now I'm sitting pretty. I have bragging rights for the first half of the football season, but it's not possible to do this forever. I did get some humility like 2 weeks ago, where every bet that I made lost. I bet against Baltimore, also bet for Cleveland. That didn't work out very well. And if you try to bet a full slate of games like they do on some of the sports shows on the networks and try to predict every winner for every game, it's impossible to do that at a profit. You might actually be at 500 or slightly above, but the experts are too good. The people who run the gambling concerns, they are going to be better than you, and ultimately they will win because they have that 9% advantage, and they're going to make the money. They have bigger houses. If you go to Las Vegas, they have fantastic hotels and stuff, and they are built on gambling. That is going to be the ultimate victor. You cannot compete with them on a consistent basis. You might be able to find little niches where if you bet infrequently, you might find isolated cases where you might be able to win, but you can't do it all the time. I typically bet maybe one or two games where I think there's a special situation where the betting community might be wrong. And so far that's worked out for me, but we'll just see. I think in the long run, it's not a winning proposition. That's what I've got to say. I'm very interested to hear from you. Comments, rebuttals. You can write to me through Twitter at @THVillageElliott, and I'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day, everyone. I'm signing off.